Hello, everyone. Welcome to Enthralled for our next episode. And I'm here with my friend Sarah, and she's going to be talking to us about her passion with mental health. I just wanted to remind you guys all our scripture that Enthralled came to be was let the king be enthralled by your beauty, honor him, for he is your Lord. And that's Psalms 45:11. So I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself a little bit and tell you guys a little bit about her.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So, I'm Sarah Lozier. I grew up in the Beaver County area, born and raised Blackhawk Area School District. Love sports. Grew up in the church, Chippewa United Methodist, doing bells, choir, active in youth group. Went off to college to Slippery Rock, where I studied criminal justice as my first major, history as my second major,
Okay.
and then started working back here in Beaver County at a rehabilitation facility, Gateway Rehab.
Okay.
While I was there, started to meet a lot of people who maybe were struggling with mental health. And then I ended up going back to college to get my master's,
Okay.
also in criminal justice, totally not related to mental health. I had a different vision for myself, but God had a different plan for me.
Yeah.
So I ended up finding my company, Meriki, doing blended case management. So
Okay.
working with people who um, are over the age of 16 who have a mental health diagnosis.
Okay.
So that's what I currently do. I'm now the supervisor there. But personally, I have a younger sister who's married. She lives in DC. She's a high school English teacher. And then I have a husband, Derek. We've been together for 10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
Yeah, crazy. So,
That is,
met at Jamonville. Shout out Jamonville. It's a Christian summer
yeah,
camp. We both volunteered there. We still do. We go back every summer
that's
to
so
help
fun.
teach a middle school adventure camp. So, helping kids learn how to rock climb, whitewater raft, mountain
Middle
boarding,
school, what ages is that?
11 to 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have
Fun.
26 middle schoolers
Wow.
coming to my camp in June.
Wow,
Eric and
so
I are
fun.
hosting. Yeah, we tent camp for half of the week. So we do that. And then we have a dog, Hank, who's 3. So
Oh,
yeah,
he's
he's
so
my
cute.
little buddy. Yeah.
Oh, so fun. So, can you share us a little bit about your journey with mental health and what ignited the passion in this field? So, you kind of got into like how you
Mhm.
started it, but what do you think ignited that passion inside of you? Because I think it has to be, for sure, that's a unique job and takes a special person to handle people with mental health issues.
Yeah. So, like I said, I didn't plan to go
Yeah.
into this field. I grew up being friends with everyone at school. I knew everyone's name,
Yeah.
and I tended to be the person, if someone was struggling, I was
Mhm.
the person they knew they could talk to, no
Mm.
matter what social group that they were
Yeah.
in. So, I had a lot of friends, even in high school, that I wasn't extremely close with,
Mhm.
but I was the person that they called
Yeah.
to talk to in the evenings, overnight. It
You
just
were the trusted friend.
yeah, I was a trusted
Yeah.
friend, that they felt comfortable making that call, and if it was to the point, I would let my parents know, and they'd reach out to the school or to their parent. So I always wanted to be that
Mm.
lifeline for people,
Yeah.
and that kinda led me to my career goal, which was to be federal agency work. I wanted to be FBI, Secret Service, DEA, helping save people.
That's so cool.
Which I started down that path before COVID. I passed through a couple of the rounds for those interviews, and then the world shut down.
Mhm.
So I was starting in this field. They wanted you to have experience working with drug and alcohol community, mental health communities. So once you got into the law enforcement side of federal agency work, you had a little bit of background of this community. All the way to the extreme point.
Yeah.
So I had the experience when the world shut down, everything paused. So my next step for Secret Service was going to be my physical fitness test, and if I had passed that, I was to go. So
Wow.
I had made it through the computer screenings, everything. And so
Wait, this was 2020-ish? Okay.
2020.
Okay.
So yeah, 2020 I was gearing up for my physical fitness test. The world shut down and they were like you got to pause. You
Oh,
have
wow.
to start all over when the world
What?
yeah, so they wanted me to go back to the beginning, do my interviews again, and I was like, "Maybe this is God saying,
Mm. Yeah.
this isn't the path for you."
Yeah.
So, I ended up loving what I did. I had great clients. There were hard days,
Yeah.
right? Because I see people in their darkest moments,
Mhm.
whether that's in prison, in the psych unit, whether it's a mom maybe struggling with
Yeah.
postpartum, Someone lost someone in grief to suicide. So I see the darkness that people live through.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that, yes, I wanted to save people
Mhm.
in the criminal justice system, but I think busting down the doors wasn't the way that God wanted me to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think He wanted me
Your
to do it.
compassionate heart,
Yeah.
maybe he could yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that maybe there was a different way for him to find going into the homes
Yeah.
with open hearts and open minds
Yeah.
was the way to do it, rather than just
Busting
thinking
down the doors.
busting down
Yes.
the doors and putting them in
Yeah.
the justice system that way.
Yeah.
So really getting to know these people and doing it locally. If
Mhm.
I would have had to do the federal agency
Yeah.
work, it was gonna be shipping me all over the country or the world.
Yeah.
So this way I can really stay firm in my faith-based community,
Yeah.
also at Bach Strong.
Yeah.
And I really need that for what
Yeah.
I do to
Yeah.
keep myself grounded.
Yeah. That's so
So
good.
that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, I love that. It kinda goes into our next question. What does mental health mean to you as a woman of faith? And you were saying about in your faith, but yeah.
Yeah. So faith has always been a big part of my life. Struggled with it a little bit in college. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people have a point in their life where they struggle.
Yeah.
Um,
Most of the time it's in college, I
Yeah,
think.
because you're
Most.
trying to learn about yourself. You
Yeah.
don't have your parents there to
Yes.
kinda give you that structure. So,
Mhm.
I was involved with a Christian organization on campus, but I wasn't as committed to it
Mhm.
as I was prior or post college.
Yeah.
But I always say mental health is intertwined with
Mhm.
my spiritual journey. They're not
Gotcha.
separate.
Yes,
So
I
a
love
lot of
that.
Christians tend to think like, "Oh, I don't need to talk about mental health or I don't need counseling because
Mhm.
they're totally separate. God's got me."
Yeah.
He does got you, but at the same time, you have to trust that God
Mhm.
will ask that you need help and you need to ask for help,
Yeah.
not only from God, from the people around you. He
Mhm.
gave you a support system for a
For a reason.
reason.
Yep. Mhm.
So make sure that you're asking that question
Mhm.
and you want to make sure that, yes, God has you, but you need to rely on your
Yeah.
support group
Yeah.
around you too.
That's so true. I think so many people, even in medical field, God has all of these, whether they're talking about counselors or any
Mm.
kind of medical people, they're all important in different ways. So how do you balance pursuing your calling without burning out emotionally or mentally? I would imagine being with people that are emotionally unstable all the time, would be a lot on you. So how do you balance all that?
Yeah, it is. Boundaries are very important
Yes.
for everybody. So
Yes.
I'm always advocating for anybody, whether it's job related or family,
Yeah.
like there has to be boundaries because you have to be able to find that time for just yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, when I come home from work, if I were to go straight home from work, I found that I really struggled with it.
Mm.
And that's what led me to finding group fitness again,
Yeah.
such as Box Strong, because I really was struggling my first few years in this field,
Yeah.
bringing all that baggage home because
Yeah.
it's a dark place to be
Mhm.
all day, every day. Um, and getting to come home to my cookie cutter life, as some of them would say,
Yeah.
but I still brought it with me.
Yeah.
So I needed to find that space, and Bach Strong became that space, and my faith became that space
Yeah.
even more. I really had to dig deep into those relationships so I can go process those things at the gym, hit the bag, lift the weights, or go to Bible study. Then I can go
Yeah.
home and kind of be at peace with myself and know that I took care of myself so that tomorrow when I wake up, I
Yeah.
can refresh and go back into those darker places and help those people again.
That's so good because you have to take time for yourself. You can't pour out what you don't have, right?
Yeah.
That's great. What boundaries do you have to protect yourself with your time, your energy, your emotions? So that's kind of a little bit like what you were saying, but
Mhm.
um and you give yourself the adequate time like you said, but is there anything else that you see that I'm sure you have to say no to a lot of things
Yeah.
because you probably need a lot of time for yourself to process things, I would think.
Yeah, and not only at home too, at work as well. There
Yeah.
are days that you're burnt out at
Mm.
work no matter what your job is. So
Yeah.
making sure you're using your paid time off.
Yeah.
We get lots of it because they know working in this
Yeah.
field, we do get tired. So we get an ample amount of sick time and they count that also as mental health days. So there
Yeah.
are days
They
where
don't
I
want you
wake
guys
up. Yeah,
needing
they
yeah, yeah.
they're struggling to get staff as it is.
I would
So they're
imagine.
like, please use this
Yeah.
time
Yes.
to kind of take that day when you need it just to
Mhm.
mentally recoup
Mhm.
because we walk into some situations where people are um, attempting to harm themselves
Yeah.
or harm others
Yeah.
and we see those things
Yeah.
or maybe we have
You
to
might need to take an
narcan.
extra day to
Yeah, we
process it.
lose clients, we
Yes.
have to narcan some people, so
Yeah.
it's just I have to take those days off for
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
And the best thing for me is to get outside. If I can't get to the gym or if it's not a day where I have my Bible study or church, like I need to be in the woods.
Yeah.
So that's where Derek and I, my husband and I bonded. It was, I need to go on a hike. I need to set up my hammock. I need to read a book
Mhm.
and I just need to like get out of that
Yeah.
headspace.
Yeah.
Because if I sit at home in my dark house with the lights out, it's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah. Yeah.
healthy thing to
Yeah.
do.
Yes. I know. You've been teaching me a little bit about maybe camping in the woods.
I'll get her there. I'll get her there.
I used to do it as a kid. I don't know why as an adult it seems so scary to me,
Yeah.
but we'll see. How do you respond when you see someone struggling but unsure at how to ask for help? I'm sure this is in your day-to-day life
Yeah.
probably, but
So I broke it down into 6 different steps
okay.
just so people can maybe write this down. It's the easy way to
Yes,
remember
I
it.
love steps.
So, step number 1 is be present and available
Uh,
for someone.
yeah.
So, give them your phone number, but say, like, I don't care when you need me,
Mm,
I'm there.
yeah.
Or when you're with them in person, say, like, hey, I noticed there's a change in you.
Mhm.
Let me know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah,
We can get coffee or something.
that's
And
so
you're
good.
great at that.
Yeah,
Like, let's go on a coffee. Let's go for a walk.
yeah.
Step 2, don't try and fix them, just listen.
Listen, yeah.
So it's so easy. I fall into this trap still, and I've been doing it for 10 years.
Mhm.
I wanna come in, I wanna fix your problem for you, and
Yeah.
then go on my way. It's not gonna work like that. You really need to let them take the steps, no matter how small they might feel for you.
Mhm.
They might not even feel like a step to you, but
Yeah,
to them, it's the
it's
biggest
the
step.
biggest. Yeah,
So just listen and help them and be patient.
that's good.
Step 3, use gentle, open-ended questions.
Mhm.
So don't just ask yes or no. We wanna get a little bit more out of them, a little bit more
Yeah.
information. And
It's
then
easy for them it's too easy to say, "Yeah, I'm fine."
right, yeah, because it's easy to hide that
Okay.
mask.
Yes.
And then step 4, offer support, not assumptions. So
Okay.
sometimes it's easy to assume we know the cause
Yeah.
or that we know how they're feeling, or maybe they're feeling this way, but they're
Mhm.
actually feeling that way.
Yeah.
So kinda just offer that support. Don't assume we know anything because it could be
Mm.
stemming from something completely different.
Yeah.
Step 5, offer to pray with them or offer to pray for them,
Mhm.
whether they're comfortable for that or not. I do not work for a Christian organization. I tend to wear a cross necklace just to have that little bit of
Yeah.
presence there.
Yeah.
And some of my clients will ask, like, can you pray for me?
Yeah.
And that is something that I will do. Not all of us will do that,
Yeah.
but always offer that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then last one is get help if needed.
Mhm.
So if they're getting to the point where maybe they're starting to say things like, "Oh, it would just be better if I'm not here
Mhm.
tomorrow," or they're talking about harming themselves or others and they have a plan in place.
Mhm.
You don't wait
Yeah.
on that information. That's when you make that phone call
Mhm.
that no one wants to make. And if
Yeah.
you don't know how to do that, ask me
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
can get you guys that information.
Yeah.
But that's kind of an easy 1 through 6 steps that can
Yeah.
kind of keep that conversation going and how you can easily assist them.
And if you kinda go through those steps, hopefully by the end, you will get to the
You
output.
divert
You can
that.
kind of understand where they're at and
Yep.
how they're that's great. I love those steps.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to write those down. What are some ways us as a community can support people who are struggling with mental health? So going through these steps would be one of them. Is there any other ways that you think because I know for me, I've had people in my life that have struggled with mental
Mhm.
health, so I've seen it. But also I think it's one of those things that people just shy away from and they don't sometimes even see it as a sickness. They
Mhm.
just think, "Oh, I
Oh,
don't know how
it
to help them," or
yeah.
they'll be fine or somebody else can help them, but I think as a community we could all do better.
Yeah, they might be scared of something they don't
Yeah, exactly.
understand,
Yeah.
because some diagnoses can be a
Mhm.
little bit more confusing than
Yeah.
others.
Mhm.
So prayer is obviously my first go-to,
Yeah.
and then having resource cards or posters available.
Mhm.
In our area, Beaver County Behavioral Health does an amazing job making all mental health resources free when it comes to
Okay.
posters, resource cards, information booklets.
Okay.
So every church, hair studio, gun shop, gym, we're trying to get all that information out to every single community in Beaver County.
Okay.
So that way, if you need access to something, it's
It's there.
there.
Like everywhere you hopefully when people go along their day, they'll see it somewhere.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it'll have like "Oh, are you struggling with these things? Here's some
Yeah.
things that you can follow up with," or "Hey, your friend said this thing, here's a hotline
Yeah.
that you can call." Or maybe you're looking for a certain local resource because you bumped into someone who's struggling with food insecurities
Yeah.
right now. The
Yeah.
economy's really hard. That's something that people can be ashamed of. Sometimes having that just sitting out somewhere
Yeah.
where they can just grab it.
So much easier than having to go
Yes,
out and tell someone, I would
yes.
imagine.
So I carry a lot of those with me, and if I notice someone is maybe mentioning something like
Yeah.
that, I'll, like, sneak it in their bag,
Oh,
or I'll
so
put
good.
those out at church all the time or different areas that I go visit. I'll ask a hair studio, "Hey, can I just leave these up front?"
Yeah.
Just so people can have access to that, because there's so
Mhm.
many things out there, just people don't know about them.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best way that we can do that. And then the second way that I thought, would be reduce stigma.
Oh,
Be willing to
yeah.
have these
Yeah.
conversations. It's hard. My husband has struggled with anxiety and depression for a really long time, and it
Mhm.
actually led to him having an addiction to alcohol because he
Mm.
was masking his
Mhm.
mental health
And that's very
with
common,
drinking.
right? I
Right.
mean, no matter what it is, but I think drinking is a big one.
Yeah,
So
so that was his way to cope, to
mhm.
numb those feelings.
Mhm.
Thankfully, he's 7 years sober, but
Oh,
he's been in counseling, getting
mhm.
treatment. He had to be on meds for a little bit, but he is the healthiest he has ever been
Yeah.
mentally
Mhm.
because of asking for help, but
Mhm.
he had to reach that certain low point
Mhm.
for us to kind of realize that he needed to
Yeah.
get out of that
They
place.
can hide it for a while,
Yeah.
and then they don't wanna it's hard to admit
Mhm.
we all have faults and
Yeah. And it's
things that we don't
hard
yeah. Yeah.
because his family ignored it.
Mhm.
So he wasn't willing to have that conversation. His Some of his parents said like, "Oh, we don't believe in mental health in this
Yeah.
family." Some family members.
Mhm.
So then he would hide it even
Yeah.
more. So making people feel more comfortable
Yeah.
being like, "Hey, it's okay.
Yes.
Like you can get help to not feel this
Mhm.
way. We don't need to hide that
Mhm.
part of you. We still love you for who
Yeah.
you are and God made you this way.
Mhm.
It's okay." And that is huge.
And I think it's so much more common, sadly, but it
Yeah.
is a lot more common than people speak of. But when you tell your story, it gives that open for so many other people
Mhm.
to be able to tell their story.
Yeah.
And so we can all help each other. Um, so you kind of maybe answered some of these, but if we have a loved one that is struggling with their mental health, what is the best ways to support them? So the cards would be great, but maybe if we know someone very much like you said on you could even speak of how your husband or somebody that's super close to us, how do you think is the best way to approach that? Because I think for me personally, the people that are close to you are the hardest. I think
Mhm.
it would be a lot easier for me to help somebody that I don't know so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people that are close to you sometimes shut you down
Yeah, it's
easier,
true.
quicker, right?
So there's a few things that you can do. Offer and listen support.
Mhm.
Um, if you're not comfortable having that conversation, be like, "Hey, I know you're going through a lot. If you don't want me to know about it,
That's good.
that's
Yeah.
fine, but I have a friend
Mhm.
that's willing to kind of have that conversation with you that's not related or they don't know all of our friends and
Yes.
family." It's easier. I've done
A
that for
mutual
people.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So it kind of takes away that embarrassment a little bit
mhm,
that it's going to get around to their circle.
yeah. I
Um,
that's very true. I can
yeah.
see that.
Developing a safety plan if they're willing to have that conversation that
Mhm.
they're in that dark place. Um, there's a safety plan that you can put together, and I actually brought it with
Oh,
me, and
okay.
I can leave it with you, and
Yeah.
it's just tearaways. So you could just leave a couple different places, but
Okay.
you essentially make a crisis plan. So if they ever get to the point where they're feeling in that dark place, what are some steps that we can take, or what let's get a plan in place so when you get there,
Yeah.
hopefully you don't. We
Yeah.
have a plan already
Yeah.
in place that we can follow so we don't have to come up with it on the
On the
spot.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the third thing is gonna be definitely limiting access to lethal means. If you know this person is really struggling
Mhm.
and they might have access to medication in their home or
Mhm.
weapons, guns in their home, that's when you need to start having the conversation of, "Let's get a plan to remove those from the home
Mhm.
or maybe lock them away so you don't have access to them except for meds that you take
Yeah.
daily."
Yeah.
That way, even if you have those thoughts, it's not an option. "We
Mm.
need you here with
Yeah.
your family. We love you. We want you to be here with us
Yeah.
tomorrow. So let's have that conversation." If they need to be locked away for a couple months,
Yeah.
let's
And
talk
maybe
about it.
telling them I would think this doesn't maybe have to be forever because some of
No,
those people, you
yes.
taking certain things away from them, it's just like telling
It's
an
scary.
older person they can't drive anymore, like, that's their whole life.
Mhm.
Maybe that might be forever, but
Yeah.
but I think it may be just reminding them it just might be a season.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's very important. I actually got trained on counseling on access to lethal means.
mm,
Last year, I got that certificate, so I'm able to train people about it.
okay.
And I can give you the information to put on the
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah, for
channel.
sure.
There's trainings called Calm Conversations, and
Okay,
it will coach you on how to have this conversation with a
okay.
loved one.
I love that.
And they're free to anyone in the area, and they're on Zoom. So if you know someone in your family struggles with mental health,
Mhm.
maybe not to this extent, but you're always just nervous in the back of your mind
Yeah.
because it's an issue in
And
our
it's good, I think,
society.
just to even have we
Yeah,
never know who we're gonna come across. At
right.
least that's how I always feel. I'm like, you wanna be there to help everyone,
Yeah.
or feel a little bit confident in certain
The
areas.
more education you can have, the
Yeah,
more research you can do, the better you can support your loved ones or friends that you might not even know are struggling.
yeah,
But how you interact with people makes a difference.
yeah. That's so good. Um, I know one of your daily tasks at work is helping others find their value and worth again, going through hard seasons. What are some steps that you take to help them? So I know you said even, and you've told me in the past, like some of your clients you may visit even in prison or in
Mhm.
places. So I know, I think part of your job, you might, I'm sure you'll say this better than me, but is to help them to do life after
Yes.
they get out and like get back into the world or however you want to say it. But what are some like steps you can do that you do? Actually, this is your job, so
Yeah, so it depends where they're at
yeah.
because everyone's different. And some people might be coming out of jail homeless. So
Okay.
obviously, that's going to be our first priority.
Yeah.
Or out of the psych unit, homeless.
Okay.
For some people, it's coming out and they need to go to rehab first
Okay.
instead of coming home.
Mm.
Our goal is that they never have to go back, whether that's to jail
Okay.
or to the psych unit.
Okay.
Our goal is to stabilize them in that community.
Hmm.
So, rebuilding or creating a new support system is one of the biggest
Hmm.
things that we can do for people who are coming out of that dark place.
And not take them back to where
They were.
like that commute. At least I always
Depending on some
what it
of
is. Yeah.
yeah,
Where.
like, if it's, addiction,
Mhm.
yes,
Yes.
people, places, things
Yes.
are gonna be
Okay.
where we want to kinda divert people,
Okay.
but if they have a healthy support system, I'm not
It's
gonna
okay.
strip
Yeah.
that away. It's
Makes
just
sense.
gonna be maybe educating the support system on how to better
Help
support
them.
them
Yes. Yeah.
in the community, finding healthy leisure activities.
Mhm.
A lot of these people have too much time on their hands, and depression and anxiety can do that to you. You wanna trap yourself in your house,
Yeah.
and you don't want to, um, go out as much. You're avoiding social interactions, so taking the small steps to be like, "Alright, I'm gonna come to your house, we're gonna hang out for a little bit,
Get them out doing something.
and
Yeah.
maybe next week we'll meet at a library, or the
Mhm.
next week we'll get coffee, or maybe we'll just walk around your street." Slowly get them out and
Mhm.
find healthy leisure activities that they enjoy.
Mhm.
That could be maybe they like hiking, maybe they hate camping,
Yeah.
maybe they like something else,
Yeah.
coloring, something. Just
Mhm.
find them something that they really enjoy.
Is it
And
usually hard for them to think about what they like to do?
yeah, most of them probably
Like, what
have
they
never
enjoy
had
doing?
the option to
Yeah.
try.
Okay.
A lot of them have grown up in this society, so they're limited
Mhm.
financially.
Mm.
So really digging into the local resources, there's so many um, that they can go to play pool or board games.
Yeah.
Libraries are great systems that we have in the area. They
Okay.
plan so many game nights or craft nights.
And it's all free.
It's all free.
Usually, that's what I love about the library. When my
Yeah,
kids were little, we went there all the
go.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or finding if they have kids, finding something for the kids to
To
do
do
so
one
the
day. Yeah.
parents have
Yeah.
time to focus on themselves,
Mhm.
because maybe that's what led them to that
Yeah.
mental health
Yeah.
crisis.
For sure.
And then making a routine tends to be the biggest thing other than that, because when you're in jail and when you're in the hospital psych unit,
They make your routine
they
like
make your
yes.
routine, and people can thrive while they're in there. They know when they're gonna get fed, they
Yeah.
know when they wake up, they know when lights out, they know when they have group. So, kind of taking that home and filling it with different things,
Yeah.
obviously, but making it a routine so they can't just like hermit back in on
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah, because it's probably hard for them to think. Now they gotta think, like, when they're in there, they don't have to
They don't
think
have
of
to think for
what they're doing
themselves.
tomorrow
Yeah.
or the next day or the next day.
Mhm.
Um, so what are some small ways or small things that people can do every day to show up for their community? So I think, meaning in community or with these people, what are some, like, small things? I think just maybe even asking them to go on a walk with you or hike
Yeah,
maybe is something I would think to
showing
do.
no judgment.
Yeah.
This really made me think of the Bob
Oh, Bob
Goff book
Goff yes, it's
that
so
we
good.
just read
Everybody All
together.
Wins. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good.
So that book really made me think about work a lot. Um,
Mhm.
love everyone
Yeah,
always because
no matter where they're at.
no matter what criminal charge they have, no matter what mental health diagnosis they have, no matter if I think they messed up, I need to love them anyway. And I
Yeah,
think that's the best thing we can do for them. If you haven't read it, I
it's so
highly
good.
suggest
Yes.
reading it. Um, but I think that's definitely one of them. And maybe showing up for some of the outreach stuff that Beaver
Mm,
County does
yeah.
or the community does. There's so many things. Like this Saturday, we have Beaver County Bounces Back, and
Okay,
it's at the Breeze Run Rocking Trail. It's from 11 to 2. It's open to everybody, but we have 75 community resources coming,
okay,
6 food trucks, a petting zoo, mini golf. So, like, if you know someone that is maybe struggling, invite them to that.
okay.
So that way they're not alone in going, but
Mhm.
that way they can walk around and have fun with their kids, but they can also maybe seek out food insecurities or
Yeah,
housing or education or employment
okay.
resources,
Yeah,
mental health resources.
yeah.
So that kind of stuff helps too.
Do they do that things like that often through the year?
So right now it's Mental Health Awareness
Okay,
Month.
okay,
So May is a big month.
okay,
So there's stuff all through May.
okay,
This is our biggest event of the year, but we normally do stuff about once a quarter.
okay,
So always check out the Beaver County System of Care website, and
okay,
all of the events and free trainings will be
okay.
there.
Maybe this is a good time too. I was just thinking of what here in Beaver County are there places or for people that maybe are struggling, whether if it's like homeless
Mhm.
or I don't know the other ones. I was just like thinking off the top of my head. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
You,
So, homeless shelter wise, we have the Women's Center of Beaver County.
okay,
They do trauma counseling, groups for supporting moms. They also provide housing if you're trying to flee a domestic violence
okay,
situation. The Cornerstone is the men's homeless shelter that's in Vanport,
okay,
but they also run a bunch of housing programs. Um, and then we have things like Crop and Kettle, the Little Food Pantry, we have the Family Matters in Monaca if you're struggling to find food, and there are free meals every day here in Beaver County in different
oh,
areas. So
okay,
if you are struggling financially right now with the economy, you will not go hungry. We can get you that list.
mm,
It's on the Beaver County System of Care website, and there is a free meal at least once, sometimes all 3 meals a day
wow,
on the
that's great.
weekend. So you and your kids do not have to stress about that if that's not an option. And there's
Mm,
a bunch of food trucks as well that can make deliveries to you too.
okay,
And then for mental health wise, Beaver County Behavioral Health, BCBH,
okay,
is a great one. They deal with children and adult, linking them to resources. And then we have YAP, the Youth Ambassador Program. It's in all the kids' school.
okay.
So if your kids are maybe starting to hear about friends struggling with mental health,
Hmm. It's
reach
crazy how young it happens.
it's getting younger and younger.
Yeah.
They just started the middle school program. It's in all the high schools in the
Okay.
county.
Okay.
Um, but it's an advocacy program to
Okay.
teach kids about how to advocate for their mental health,
Okay.
how to support their friends who are struggling with mental health. So that's a great one for your kids if that's
Mm,
something too. And then Psychology and Learning Center, I would say, is another great mental health place because they
okay.
do all of the neuro tests. For autism if you're
Mm,
worried your kid might
okay.
be on the spectrum, but they also do traumatic brain injury tests. So, but they have therapists, med management. They do EMDR, which is a type of therapy as well, trauma therapy. So
Okay.
that's a kind of overarching mental health provider here.
That's so great. I don't
Yeah.
even know half of them, so that's a lot of news to me, which I think is great because there's so much out there that we don't know. If kind of you sometimes you live in this little bubble that you don't know,
Hmm.
you know? And it's
Yeah.
good to see what all is out there. Um, so maybe you could say for those listening who may be in that dark place or lonely place right now, what would you tell them
So the
if you were
first,
like talking to somebody
yeah,
that was here?
the first step would be it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to need help. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're not loved.
Hmm.
You are not forgotten or alone, and you don't have to suffer in silence.
Mm,
So please reach out. The
yeah.
darkness won't last forever.
That's so good. Yeah.
Any little bit of light can poke through that darkness. That's
Mhm.
all you need to take is just one small light source at a
Yeah.
time to bring you back to where you used to be.
Mhm.
So, whether that first step is reaching out to a friend, a pastor, a counselor, a
Mhm,
stranger.
mhm,
Maybe you just sense
mm,
someone's
yeah, that feels
personality while
mhm,
you're in a grocery line and you're
mhm,
like, this is my moment. This might be the only chance I have to stop myself and get out of this darkness. Do that.
I've heard so many stories of that, that people was on their last and they're like, go one more
Hmm.
place or see somebody smiling or just something very small. I was listening to a podcast not too long ago and it was about this, us and I'm really into this, like, against technology thing right now. I know it's
Yeah.
probably against my podcast, but anyways, they would say when they would go into a store, they were always on their phone, whether you're looking at your grocery list or you're
Hmm.
just whatever. And so she challenged herself to not look at her phone while she was in the store for I
I
can't
like
remember how
that.
often it was. Like she might have started for a week or I don't know, or how many other times. And she said that she had so many things come up that interactions she had with people. This one little old lady was at the, ordering meat, like, I think it was turkey or something, and it was around Thanksgiving, and she just started talking to her, and she opened up and said that she was gonna be alone on Thanksgiving, and then this lady ended up inviting her to
Oh,
Thanksgiving dinner, and she came because she was a widow, and she's like, typically, I'd have been looking at my phone, doing something, or even when you're checking out, instead of just
you
I don't
missed
know,
those
you
things.
miss, like, little small just, "Hey, how are you doing today?"
Yeah.
And people open up,
And that
and that's
personal connection could be
yeah.
what saves someone.
Exactly, and that's what it opened my eyes to, that so many times I'm just going here or there and so in my head about whatever I'm doing next, but we're missing those little interactions with people that we could just
Yeah. Makes a difference.
yeah, for sure. Um, and how do you create a safe place up or an uplifting space for people to feel seen or heard? So how do you how can we as a community or as people just feel open have the place where people can feel safe to talk to us, do you
Yeah.
think?
I think putting your phone down is a good
Yeah,
start.
yeah, which that was a good one, I was led into that, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. Leading with compassion and not judgment. It's
Yeah,
so easy for our society because we see it everywhere. Judge people by their looks or
yeah.
their past.
Mhm.
Lead with your heart first.
Yeah,
Be present and consistent. So just keep showing up. Even if they don't show up,
yeah.
keep showing up.
Mm,
That's the hardest part because there will be people who are struggling that just physically cannot get themselves to show up,
yeah,
whether they have the best intentions to make that coffee date with you or not. Do
yeah.
not let that deter you
Mhm.
from scheduling that with them because that means they probably need it even more.
They probably really wanna come, but
But
we
they're
we take it as
terrified.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's not a you thing. They're
yeah,
just terrified of what for whatever reason, or they're
yeah.
so anxious, or they're so depressed, maybe they can't get out of bed that day,
Mhm.
or maybe something abusive is happening at home and they physically
Can't
cannot
yeah,
leave.
yeah.
So, always show up, always check in, lead with compassion and not
So
judgment,
good.
and then educate yourself. I know I said it earlier, but the best thing you can do is read about it,
Mm.
take trainings, they put this stuff online for free for a reason because
Yeah,
they want people to learn because that's the only way we're going to make a difference in these numbers to get people
yeah,
back to where they want
yeah,
to be. And then normalize asking for help. Maybe it's me sharing that my husband did have to ask for
yeah,
help. He did have to get to the point where I said, you either go get help or I can't be with you anymore.
yeah,
Maybe it is him finally seeing that his family was worried and
yeah,
that he
yeah,
needed to ask for that help. Me sharing his story, or he will talk about it too. Him
yeah.
sharing his story might save someone else, and it has. He's made
Mhm.
those relationships, and
Yeah,
Derek is the most timid, quiet guy.
yeah,
He hates social
yeah,
interactions, but if it's like
and
that,
yeah. He
he's
knows
the
it can help
first.
somebody because he knew probably how much it helped him
Yeah,
where he
he's the
came from.
first person to kinda
Yeah,
jump in and be like, "No, like, it
yeah.
you need the help. Take the step.
That's
It
good.
makes a difference."
Yeah,
That's why he's here today.
yeah,
Thank goodness.
yeah. That's so good. Well, I've learned so much today. I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for all that you shared, and I know there's still so much to learn, but I think, and we'll post all of those,
Okay.
a lot of those things that you talked to us about. But one fun question I have for you,
Okay.
and you touched on you love hiking, so this might be one of your ideas. But if you had a day all to yourself with no money constraints or time or I don't know whatever you want to take out, what would you do? What would you do for the whole day?
Oh, the whole day. I would probably wake up, go get a really good bagel from Beaver Bagel.
You
Wa
would sleep in first, maybe, right?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
sleep
so
until,
yeah.
like, 9 o'clock,
Okay, yeah,
go get a Beaver Bagel,
that sounds great.
probably either go up to Moraine State Park.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorites. And then walk into the woods until I found a spot, hook up my hammock, read a book, bring my knitting like the old lady I am,
I
take a
love that.
nap by the lake, and then maybe walk around a little bit more with Hank, get back in the car, stop and get ice cream on the way home,
Okay.
and then put on like an old 2000s rom-com
Okay.
and then go to bed.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Would you do this all alone, or would you want somebody to be with you besides your
Depends on
dog?
my day.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely would like the dog with me.
Okay. I love that.
But I could do it both ways.
Okay.
I could do it by myself, or I mean, I'm always down for a good hangout with like a friend.
Yeah.
So if they're up for it, I'm up
Yeah.
for it.
So fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was great. So thank you guys all for joining us today, and make sure you subscribe and join us on our social media accounts and follow us for next week's podcast.